question, but thank you for making the effort to come in. Thank you. Okay, so we now move on to item 3.2, deputations by appointment. Is Sam? Yeah, yes, thank you. Sam, Selwyn District Mayor and Local Government New Zealand President Sam Broughton, who is here to speak regarding item 12 about the Local Government New Zealand payment of annual membership subscription.
Now on. Sorry, I turned it off. Tēnā koutou katoa. To the powers and the voices and the people in this place, I acknowledge each of you. Phil and Pauline as key leaders in this building, thank you for allowing me the time to come and speak. And this is about an agenda item Council's considering this afternoon around Local Government New Zealand. I'm Sam, the President of Local Government New Zealand, but also your neighbouring Mayor. The work of LGNZ is really about councils working together for Aotearoa New Zealand and recognising that there's huge amounts of things that we need to do for our community. Some of that is easy to do in place and some of that needs some national attention, and Local Government New Zealand focuses on both of those. How do we support councils to do things in a local space for your local people in your local specific way, and then also how do we work together to combine our forces to make sure that national governments understand the pressures that local communities are under and the legislative changes that could be made that would make things easier for communities to function. One of the key parts about that is meeting with the Prime Minister and meeting with ministers. So we've done that this year with the Prime Minister and Minister Simeon Brown, and also with Ministers for Infrastructure and Housing to understand how we can support their legislative changes this year. One of the key feedbacks that we receive is that they don't want to be dealing with 78 different councils. They don't want to be dealing with 50 different councils. They want to be thinking about how councils work together. And their key frames around city and regional deals and understanding how we work together within regions or within sub-regions is a key part of how they would like to see us function. And so LGNZ is focused on that and thinking about how we set up the frameworks for those city and regional deals. We're also very aware of the funding and financing pressures that all councils are under. New Zealand is an over-centralised country. We're the most over-centralised country in the OECD. Almost all of councils' key ways of creating funds is through rates. We can use a bit of debt. Some of us have user charges and some councils have some investments. It's a really narrow way of raising the revenue that communities need. We need some tools that sit outside of that. And when your income needs to increase and your only source of income is rates increase. And so that's a pressured situation for all councils across the country this year. We have, it used to be that 4 or 5% lift in rates was like, that was about where councils wanted to talk. 6% was very high, and anything above that was pretty drastic. This year, there's no council below 6%. The average is 16%, and some councils have 26% rates increases just this year. So we've made a point of making sure that the national media understands that the government understands that, and that your conversation for Christchurch isn't just for the Christchurch citizens to say, what are you doing, Christchurch, but understanding that the context for councils across the country is pressured, and you're in no different place than everyone else around those funding pressures. We're really keen to bring our conference to Christchurch again next year, the Local Government New Zealand conference. We were here last year. It was a very successful event. It brought about $1.2 million of spending into the city, and we would love to sign that up again for next year. And so having you as members is really key for getting that across the line. We continue to provide guides and submissions that people can copy and paste within your council to government. So when you're framing up what it is that you'd like to say, you don't have to start from scratch, but you can use the learning of Local Government New Zealand and the experience across all councils to inform those, and using things for your own guides and standing orders as well. We're also developing the Ratepayers Assistance Scheme, which we've spoken to the government about and has been supported by the Metro Councils of New Zealand. This is a way of providing off-balance sheet funding for ratepayers to pay for council costs at less than bank mortgage rates. So that would include development contributions. It could include healthy homes. There's a number, any cost that is for councils, communities would be able to access this funding. So we're continuing to talk with ministers about how we set that up, and you have been a part of developing that. Within the local government scene, Mayor Phil, you sit on the National Council, and it's been great having your voice into that space. and Christchurch is obviously a key voice in the metro sector, which is all the major cities of New Zealand working together. And again, that advocacy into government is key, that Christchurch is a part of that, speaking not only for you as a city, but bringing that South Island voice into the messages that our government needs to hear. I'll leave it there so you've got some time for questions. Mayor Phil, I understand the time pressures of today, and I really appreciate my ability to appear before you.
Thank you, Sam. We have got time for one question if anyone wants to. Sarah, please.
Thank you. I hadn't heard about the conference for next year, and maybe I've just missed something, but so that wouldn't be likely to come here at all, and the economic benefits it brings if we're not members?
No.
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you very. Oh, I've got a few more. Jake, please. Councillor Miller, Councillor McClellan.
Thank you. The morning, Sam.
Morning.
The Akona training module that you've just launched, or
Yes.
I don't know if you've just launched, but recently, would that be accessible to us if we were not members?
No. So we've rolled in our corner and the training module and platform for professional development of all elected members, including for community boards, into memberships. That becomes free as a part of our membership. That's part of the reason for the increase in costs this year. Rather than having it as a separate buy-in, it becomes accessible to everyone.
Councillor Harrison Hunt.
Thanks, Mayor Phil. Good to meet you, Sam.
Got it.
Good to see you, mate. Hey, just a quick question. The public tend to be a little bit hesitant around obviously the costs, but also the benefits of being a metro city in what many people would say would be around a localised community such as the smaller councils. Can you talk us quickly around the benefits of actually being involved in LGNZ as a larger metro city in comparison to us advocating for ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we think of even just the South Island situation, Christchurch is in a unique position to offer the influence for outcomes for the South Island. So you could be a very insular council, you could just look at yourselves and go, we only care about things within our borders, or you could say, actually, we're the largest council in the South Island, we've got the ability to think about what happens for not only just our near neighbours in Waimakiriri and Christchurch through the Greater Christchurch Partnership, but also what happens across the South Island. And when you're a part of the conversations and working together, and I just think that partnership is the best way to get outcomes, because you bring some strengths and others bring some strengths into those conversations. When you're a part of that, then everyone benefits. So that means Christchurch benefits by you being a part of that conversation, because you get a richer, broader conversation. That's with mana whenua being involved, that's with neighbouring councils being involved, that's with the NGO sectors being involved, and that was part of the Future for Local Government work that LGNZ completed at the end of last year.
Okay, Councillor Donovan.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
See, I just wondered if you could expand a little bit more about the opportunities for elected members that might be sort of underrepresented already in local government. So I'm talking about the young elected members, and also I understand there's a woman elected members network a female network being set up. Is that correct?
Yeah. So part of LGNZ's framework is to try and support individual elected members as well as member councils, and so we do that through Te Marawata, which is a network of Māori elected members that gets together. We have the Young Elected Members Network, which is for every elected member under the age of 40, call that young in elected member jargon. And then we've just set up conversations around bringing female elected members together as well to have some of those conversations. So access to those networks for each of your elected members and for your community board members, that's part of the membership and the value that LGNZ brings.
Okay, and Councillor McDonald.
Hey, thanks, Sam, for coming in. Appreciate all you do. I just wondered if you had a view on why other councils are leaving. So I think Greymouth left last night, as I understand it. I think Westland have, and there have been a couple of others, and obviously Auckland. Have you got a view on why that is?
They've each made their own decision. So Auckland was, over 12 months ago now. And so their decision is different than West Coast decision. I visited the West Coast a couple of weeks ago, met with those councils, and for them, it was funding was the key reason for them. And the Auckland conversation was before I was a president, so I wasn't actually part of those conversations in the same way that I have been recently. Some of that, I think, referred back to the way that LGNZ had been perceived in the waters conversation around what the government was trying to do in the Three Waters piece.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor McClellan, bearing in mind we have gone a wee way, but this is important. Carry on.
Thanks, Sam. Hey, just on the conference, so it was last year in Christchurch as well, is it? Can you explain why you're wanting to do it 2 years in Christchurch? Is that the key inducement that we should be thinking when deciding if we want to be members?
So National Council made a decision before we came to Christchurch last year that we should actually hold conference. There's over, I think there's about 700 or 800 people that turn up to that conference. We want an experience for the people that come to be of value, not just in the room, but the experience they have around accommodation and travel and transport and restaurants and everything else that a conference brings, so that when we meet together with one another, it's not just learning in the room, but you rub shoulders outside of the room. And Christchurch and Wellington have purpose-built facilities, not only with the conference centres that you have, but with the accommodation and transport around that. So we wanted to have Christchurch and Wellington. We'd probably have Auckland if Auckland was a member, but Christchurch, Wellington as a North and South Island option is quality locations to hold that venue. So we would look to come back every couple of years to Christchurch if you're members. And yeah, as I said before, it's about $1.2 million for the city.
Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you can sort of perhaps expand upon the importance of perhaps making sure that we have a strong voice in the South Island, given some of the decisions that are coming from Wellington at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're all aware of the lack of investment that the government's making in transport for the South Island, the problems with the GPS that we saw, and not having MRT for the city as one of the key projects for the South Island. That the things that needs to happen in the city is actually investment that impacts the rest of us. So we're hugely supportive of investment in transport in Christchurch City, because it affects everyone else that wants to travel to the city. Is the main place of international travel and export and import for the country, as well as many people's families, friends and families living here. So I don't think that the government's giving true representation to the needs of the South Island, and it needs to address it in Christchurch first. This is the place that that investment conversation should happen, and once we address what needs to happen in Christchurch, the flow and impacts for that for those that sit around the rest of the South Island will be felt. But we need a strategic conversation with Christchurch's space and transport. Like transport and water, that's what you're spending all your money on. Yeah, that's what we're spending all our money on. It's focusing on transport and water, and we're not seeing the government investment in that space in the way that we would like. We need Christchurch's voice as a part of the collective to continue to raise it.
And Councillor Cotter, please, and that might
Thanks for
be the
allowing
end
me
of them.
another one, Phil. Now, this is before your time, but let's just be frank. There was criticism about how Local Government New Zealand handled the advocacy for councils over the Three Waters proposal from the previous government. Can you tell us how your new leadership would change that approach to advocacy, ensuring that all the voices are captured at an early stage and fairly?
Yeah, thanks, Pauline, for the question. I think, as you said, we've got a completely new leadership compared to where we were beforehand. So National Council's changed. I'm the president now, where I wasn't beforehand. We've got a number of, well, I think we've got about 20 people, 18 on National Council. I think it's about 3 of us that are there from what was the previous National Council. I think, well, I hope you've seen in the last 12 months the different approach that I have to leadership for the organisation, which is engaging with members and making sure that you're aware of the steps that we take before we make submissions, looking for feedback around the future by local government work, which was inviting you as representatives to be in the room to vote on the things that LGNZ was going to do, and not taking steps that don't have our members' support, and the things that were going to be 50-50 amongst our members, those have been put to one side, and now we're focusing on the things that we have between 75 and 95% support on, to know that membership wants us to advocate on those things. And it's funding and financing is like the thing. We want to see a 4-year term. We continue to talk to the government about seeing a 4-year term. We want to see extra engagement with mana whenua, and that becomes a local conversation about what you want to see as a council, not what the government might want to see. So those are the decisions that have been brought on board because of the future by local government work, which is a completely different way to the way LGNZ was 4 or 5 years ago through those other times.
Okay, thank you, Sam. It's important that we carried on and let you speak a bit longer. And I'd just like to say thank you to Sam, because he is a very good president of Local Government New Zealand, president. So thank you for making time to come in.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, everyone.
Good on you.
Good.
So now we've got Simon